Jean-Louis Lebris de Kerouac was born on March 12, 1922. Part of a religious French-Canadian family, Jack grew up in the Massachusetts mill town of Lowell, adopting many hobbies along the way. A fan of sports, he was similarly captivated by Saturday matinee movies, radio serials, and pulp magazines. Kerouac was first recognized for his athletic talent, however, earning a football scholarship to Columbia University in 1939. Packing his bags for New York City at 17, Kerouac arrived at college in 1940. Due to an early season-ending injury, however, Kerouac dropped out of school at the start of his sophomore year in September 1941. For the first half of the war years, he shuffled between odd jobs, at times employed as a seaman aboard merchant marine ships. In fall of 1943, however, after returning to New York City from the sea, Kerouac moved in with Edie Parker, who would introduce him to a host of new friends, including future authors William S. Burroughs and Allen Ginsberg. With this group, Jack lived a bohemian existence, shuffling between members' apartments, surviving in near poverty while developing a taste for Benzedrine. In the summer of 1945, Kerouac moved into his parents' Ozone Park lease, recruited to look after his dying father. Kerouac himself would be hospitalized for his drug use, however, and spent his short stint at the VA becoming interested again in Thomas Wolfe, an American novelist whose autobiographical style had originally interested Kerouac in Columbia. In the spring of 1946, his father passed away, and, imbued with new resolution to accomplish something, Jack began writing The Town and the City, an account of strain between the values of small town and big city. The novel incorporated many autobiographical elements from the author's life, and would be completed in 1948. However, a much more important event would transpire in 1947, when Kerouac was introduced to Neal Cassady. Cassady, who came to Kerouac for writing advice, fascinated him, and the two formed a friendship. In a span of 4 years, starting in 1947, Kerouac would take spontaneous journeys across North America, motivated and occasionally joined by Cassady, with destinations varying between Denver, New Orleans, Los Angeles, San Francisco, New York City, and even Mexico City. Kerouac once again developed a bohemian lifestyle as he searched for experience and enlightenment on the roads of the continent. After 3 of these years were compiled into notes, Kerouac spent 3 weeks in 1951 recounting his travels, written on a single 120-foot scroll of teletype paper. These words would become his second novel, titled On the Road. The manuscript would take 6 years to reach bookshelves, however, as publishers dismissed the single scroll of what Jack deemed spontaneous prose. Once it was published, however, in September of 1957, the book would make quite an impact upon America. Simply stated, Jack Kerouac is important because of On the Road. His memoirs captured the Beat Generation best, portraying a lifestyle that stood in direct contrast against what was deemed morally acceptable at the time. Kerouac, for living without direction nor caution during an age of nuclear families and mass-produced suburbs, became figurehead of the Beat Generation and a pioneer of the counterculture. In refusing the accepted path of his era, he even exemplified values which hark backwards throughout American history. Here's a 1959 clip of the author explaining why he wrote On the Road to Steve Allen.
A lot of people have asked me why did I write that book or any book. All the stories I wrote were true because I believed in what I saw. I was traveling west one time at the junction of the state line of Colorado, its arid western one, and the state line of poor Utah. I saw in the clouds, huge and massed above the fiery golden desert of Evenfall, a great image of God with forefinger pointed straight at me, through halos and rolls and gold folds that were like the existence of the gleaming spear in his right hand, which saith, "Come on, boy, go thou across the ground." Go moan for man. Go moan. Go groan. Go groan alone. Go roll your bones alone. Go thou and be little beneath my sight. Go thou and be minute as seed in the pod. Go thou, die hence. And of this world report you well and truly.
As seen from that interview, Kerouac, whether aware or unconscious to the fact of it, took inspiration from the spirit of manifest destiny, which has illuminated Americans with visions of different futures since the eastern seaboard belonged to Britain. Jack Kerouac, following the fame from On the Road, continued to write, creating novels such as The Dharma Bums in 1958 and Big Sur in 1962. Though his career continued past 1957, it could never top the acclaim that came with that year, and Kerouac would struggle with alcohol and drug addiction in his later life. On October 21st, 1969, he died of an abdominal hemorrhage in St. Petersburg, Florida. The example sent forth in On the Road, though established in 1957, would continue to inspire an entirely new generation of artists and outsiders. Prominent artistic figures of the 60s and 70s have come forth with words grateful to Kerouac and his novel. Hunter S. Thompson, the author of 1971's Fear and Loathing in Las Vegas, said of Kerouac that he was a great influence on me, who remains one of my heroes. Ray Manzarek, an integral member of psychedelic rock band The Doors, would confess that if he hadn't written On the Road, The Doors never would have existed. Finally, and last but not least, there's the testimony of Bob Dylan, the Minnesota native whose lyrics would march beside the 60s counterculture and protest movements. I read On the Road in maybe 1959. It changed my life like it changed everyone else's. Jack Kerouac, for living as he liked and writing what he saw, became a beacon of hope and inspiration to the masses of Americans who felt shy in their discontent with the social norms of their eras.